Why doesn't memory get released to system after large queries or series of queries in Django? First off, debug equals false in settings.py, so no connections, default.queries is not growing and growing until it uses up all of memory. Let's start off with the fact that I've loaded the user table from django.contribution.auth.models.user with 10,000 users, each named test hashtag, where hashtag is a number between 1 and 10,000. Here is the view. I've attached the view above to the /leak/URL and start the development server with debug equals false, and I've tested and it has nothing to do with running a development server versus other instances. After running, the run server process memory grows to around the size seen from PS/AUX output below and then stays at that level. Then running the above curl command above does not seem to grow the instance's memory usage, which I expected from a true memory leak. It must be reusing the memory. However, I feel that there is something wrong here, that the memory does not get released to the system. However, I understand that it may be better performance that Python does not release the memory. Following this, I naively attempted to see if Python would release large chunks of memory that it allocated. So I attempt the following from a Python session. The memory is allocated on the a plus equals ... line as expected, but when dela happens, the memory is released. Why is the behavior different for Django query sets? Is it something that Django is intending to do? Is there a way to change this behavior? I've literally spent 2 days debugging this behavior with no idea where to go next. I've learned to use Guppy and ObjGraph, which seem to not point to anything interesting that I can figure out. Update: this could be simply Python memory management at work and have nothing to do with Django, suggested on Django users mailing list, but I'd like confirmation by somehow replicating this in Python outside of Django. Update: using Python version 2.6.5.
Lots of applications, language runtimes, and perhaps even some system memory allocators will keep deallocated memory in place for as long as possible with a view to reusing it, purely for performance purposes. In a complex system like Django, it could be any number of extensions, possibly implemented in C, which exhibit this behavior, or it might be Python with some sort of memory pool, or lazy garbage collection. It could even be the underlying malloc implementation doing this, or your operating system keeping a certain amount of memory space allocated to your process even though the process isn't explicitly using it. Don't quote me on this though, it's been a while since I looked into such things. On the whole though, if repeating the allocation process after the initial alloc and dealloc does not double the amount of memory used, what you're seeing is not a memory leak but memory pooling. It's only likely to be a problem if you have a lot of processes that contend for a limited amount of memory on that machine.
I decided to move my comments into an answer to make things clearer. Since Python 2.5, the Python memory allocation tracks internal memory, usage by the small object allocator, and attempts to return completely free arenas to the underlying OS. This works most of the time, but the fact that objects can't be moved around in memory means that fragmentation can be a serious problem. Try the following experiment. I use 3.2, but 2.5 plus should be similar if you use range. Note, even if you drop the references to seek 1 and seek 2, the above sequence will likely leave your Python process holding a lot of extra memory. When people talk about PyPy using less memory than Python, this is a major part of what they're talking about. Because PyPy doesn't use direct pointer references under the hood, it is able to use a compacting GC, thus avoiding much of the fragmentation problem and more reliably returning memory to the OS.
If you want to support the channel, please consider liking and subscribing.